Let's take Sean McVay, the coach, out of it real quick, and Sean McVay, the dad. What kind of sports dad do you want to be?
I don't want to be that overbearing dad. I want to be able to help you, but I want you to be able to guide me in that.
I think the hardest thing, Sean, that you'll have to do is you'll have to take your coaching hat and totally get rid of it.
How do you guys do it?
I'm wearing the dad hat. Dude, we're going to have a blast. I can put on my coach hat if you want me to, and I can answer it honestly.
You take on a big responsibility for impacting young guys' lives.
Everybody throws this process word out. Everybody throws out being present. These things are so easy to say, and they are so hard to do.
We talk a lot in youth sports today about the burnout, whether it's the kids, the parents, the combination.
How can you do things that give you an expanded perspective, but not so specialized where you see it can lead to burnout?
What's the most exciting football game that you played in?
Was probably the Chiefs Rams. We were supposed to play that game in Mexico City. Shakira concert ruined the field, so we're back to the Coliseum.
John, you talk very open after 22 about burnout.
Yeah.
And you yourself, we talk a lot in youth sports today about the burnout, whether it's the kids, the parents, the combination. What for you I know Chris Peterson helped you out a lot with some things, but what was kind of the big picture for you? How did you prioritize to get yourself back to have a better balance? And what's your advice for parents that are struggling with that with their kids?
It's such a good question. And man, there's so many different ways you could go with it. But I think it all goes back to, the simple things of making sure that you just have the appropriate perspective and purpose. In the midst of the journey and in the midst of a lot of the blessings that this game has provided, you start to identify with things that really are very shallow and revealed a lot of insecurities where, hey, if my identity is exclusively reflected in what occurs on that Sunday or that Thursday or Monday when we play, man, that's going to be a hard way to be able to live. And that's not real foundationally stable. You think about it. We talk about it all the time. When you build the right foundation with the faith that you have, with the people that you love and care about, and really being able to say, hey, what are the core values and what are the things that I want to do that are good reminders of being the person that I want to be when you inevitably go through the different challenges that sports takes you on. But I think for the kids, it's helping them maintain the appropriate perspective and where their real self-worth is. And it's in their character and who they are and how they handle the different things. It's not in going 4 for 4 and hitting a couple homers and 10 RBIs. It's not in throwing for 300 yards. But I think the consistency of our responses for these outcomes, whether they're successful or whether they're not, everybody throws this process word out. Everybody throws out being present. And these things are so easy to say, and they are so hard to do. But if you do it and you really commit to it, you never regret it. And when you really talk about, okay, what does really being totally and completely present mean? And we talked a little bit about it before we got on here. Scotty Scheffler, I think, is a great example. Or you look at Steph Curry or Matthew Stafford for us, or, anybody that's in this sports arena that you just watch and they've got a calm and a poise about themselves. You know what they have? They have a presence and they have a perspective. Like Scotty Scheffler, when you hear him talking, he says it so simply, but he really does it by the way you watch him. Hey, when I'm on the golf course, I am totally immersed in the golf course and trying to be the best golfer I can be. And then when I'm not there, I put that away and I'm trying to be with my family and my wife and my son. And that takes such an effort to really be where your feet are, to really be fully engaged in whatever that is, so that your mind isn't wandering, but you're right there right now, and how that affects people, how that affects you. But I think it's all about, committing to those processes, those core values that you want to be about, and then being totally and completely present. And if there's nothing else that you can take away, it's that, the lies you tell yourself are, it's all about these results. It just isn't. It's so much bigger than that. And if you can really commit to leaning into those values, that those are the transactional things or the transformational things. How can we be transformational in everything that we do in such a transactional society, and what sports inevitably can lead you to? And you are fighting that all the time, but it's a battle worth fighting.
That's such a good message. You I want to ask a question on behalf of coaches that you keep saying stuff that is intriguing to me, because there's this idea out there that if you want to be a coach and you want to impact young lives, you got to be at the high school level or at the college level. But when you get to the pros, it's all about X's and O's and culture and stuff like that. But what I hear from you, it sounds like you take on a big responsibility for impacting young guys' lives as a coach. Talk about that. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh man, I sure hope so, Britt. I really do, because there's different stages where maybe people are continuing to formulate their identity, but man, that's ever changing. I mean, I look at how much the people I'm around have helped change my heart, whether that's my son, my wife, the people that I work with, our coaching staff, our players. And I'm 39 years old. So I think I think people can always change. I think you can always make an impact on them no matter what. I mean, shoot, why did you guys start this podcast in the first place? To really try to help create an appropriate perspective for, the athletic space in general, but probably for parents, most importantly, and how we can navigate a thing where, man, we all come from an unconditional love, but how do we do it in a way that lands the punch appropriately, and hits the mark, if you will. And so I sure hope so, because I know this, I've coached from a place of transactional perspectives and where my heart was at. And I've had moments where it's been transformational, and I choose that all the time. But it takes work to do that, because a lot of things run counterintuitive to it, but it is so worth it. And I think you can feel when you're able to really connect, that's what this life is about. I think the trust thing, we talk about this all the time. We talk about a trust triangle that we want to really be able to have. And you got to be able to have these three things. And if you can do that, man, you're starting in a really good place, but it's hard to do it. Is there the character? Do you have the character? Do you have the heart for people? Are you about the right stuff with your moral compass and how you go about that? Is there a competency? Let's not be naive to the fact that there does need to be a competence in whatever that space is, whether that's trying to do well, whether that's providing the appropriate feedback to improve. So it's character, it's competence, and then it's the connection. Are you connecting? And if you have the character, if you have the competence, and you have the ability to connect where you really commit to it, that's going to lead to developing real trust. And when you have that, you have everything that you need to be able to do the things that are hard in the midst of athletic journeys. But gosh, it's so easy to get off track of those things. And I try to recommit every single day. And that's why it's so important to be surrounded by the right people and have people around you too that'll be able to love you enough to tell you the truth if you're not being that. And are you receptive to it?
100%. Let's take Sean McVay, the coach, out of it real quick, and Sean McVay, the dad. Because that little 1.5 boy that you love right now will be putting on a uniform quick. I promise you that. What kind of sports dad do you want to be? And your wife included. What kind of parents do y'all want to be?
I hope it's that, like what my grandpa was, Jeff, where, hey, I want to be able to help you, but I want you to be able to guide me in that. I don't want to be that overbearing dad. I want to be able to allow him to experience the good things and be able to work through the challenging things and know that I'm going to be the same and unconditional no matter what. What I also hope to hear that I've lost perspective of at times is, how as a dad, or, how do you balance the difference between, whenever you're coaching as a dad or whenever you're just a dad being a dad, understanding the differences in what your son or daughter needs in that moment, like really paying attention to what's said, but what's unsaid, and asking the right questions where they can help guide you. Even young kids, I believe, they'll steer you in the right direction if you're willing to let them help you do that. But what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to help him develop a real perspective and an authentic grit, and know that that's what I'll love you for, the character, the man you become, the effort that you put forth, and how you go about things. And then if that coincides with some successful outcomes, I'll be super proud, but I'll also be really proud if it doesn't coincide with successful outcomes, as long as we're committed to the right things.
I've got a good, Britt and I have a good friend that's the head pro over here at Atlanta Athletic Club, and his son's a pretty good golfer. and he says he has 2 hats he wears, and he asks his son which hat does he want him to wear at the time. He goes, if I'm wearing the dad hat, dude, we're gonna have a blast. If we're gonna but if he asks me like, hey, how's my swing look? Yeah, I can put on my coach hat if you want me to, and I can answer it honestly. And you might not want to hear that answer, but just let me know which hat you want me to wear. But he says his ultimate goal for his kid is, he said, I want him when he's 30 years old to call me up and say, hey, let's go play golf. He goes, that's my ultimate goal.
That's
cool. He's going to be a good golfer. I don't know how far he'll go. He said, but ultimately, when this journey's over with, I want him to call me
relationship.
Up and let's play golf. Yeah, and have that relationship through this whole thing. And that's tough, though. I mean, Jeff's got 4, Britt's got 4, I got 6, and man, you're going to have a blast. You're going to have an awesome time. But it's really tough because you love them so much, and you.
How do you guys do it? I'd be interested to see, how have you guys tried to, and I know that's a long question, but I'd be interested to see from each of you 3, what does that journey look like, and how have you guys tried to be what you want to be for them?
Well, I'll start because I'm the oldest. My kids are all grown. So the journey is finished. My youngest are twin boys who've just graduated from college here, and they did high level sports. One of them played Division I tennis. And we've talked about it a lot on this show, and it was challenging. And a lot of what we talk about on this show are things I didn't do right. And kind of Brad and I's passion for this show, because we're in a different place than Jeff is right now, is based on, gosh, we wish we had some encouragement and some inspiration and more information along that journey for us to challenge us to do it right. And but I will say at the end of all of that, my relationship with my kids is great. And I didn't do it all right. I had to ask forgiveness at times. I got too passionate at times, but with my wife's help, at the end of the day, I kept the focus on relationship, and that's what endures.
I mean, I agree completely with what Brett said. I would just say that, at a certain age, really finding great coaches. I mean, my dad was a coach. I think coaching is one of the greatest professions. It's really more than a profession. It's more of an identity. But I just think that at a certain age, I was like, hey, I'm gonna be the dad, and I'm gonna find great coaches for them, and let those coaches just pour into them. And they're gonna listen at a certain age. They're gonna listen to the coaches more. They're gonna listen to me anyway. And so, and I think my boys chose sports that I knew the least about too, soccer and baseball. And I think that was probably on purpose, because about 11 or 12 years old, there's not a lot I could have told them, skill wise or technique wise. And so I could just cheer them on. But like Britt said, I mean, our wisdom that we share is from the mistakes that we've made. It's not because we were perfect at it. It's just, and then just listen to the guests we've had on the show, like just saying it's their journey. It really is their journey. And as much as you want to help them and guide them, it's really, they've got to make those decisions. And sometimes you just got to stand back and let them fail and learn from it. But it's a blast, but it's gut wrenching too at the same time, because you just love them so much.
I think the hardest thing, Sean, that you'll have to do is you'll have to take your coaching hat and how your mind works and totally get rid of it. Because early on, when my kids were 6, 7, 8, and I'm coaching, I'm like, why are they not thinking the way that I think? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you not practicing? How are you not? But I think the biggest thing is, if they want to continue the journey and to work hard and compete, then you as a dad give them every opportunity to do that, whether it's through you, another good coach. And I'll say this, Monday, I flew out actually to LA Monday night because I did the Dodgers Mets Tuesday night for TBS out there. But Monday I'm watching the Women's College World Series, which has been awesome. The ratings have been through the roof. I saw Mahomes was at the game last night.
I saw that too.
But I was watching the game with my daughter, right? And she's 11. She's about to turn 12. And we were talking about just the legs on these girls and how strong they are and doing this. So we get done watching and I shower, and I was going to say bye before I drove to the airport. And she was down in the basement doing leg extensions, doing like these things, which I loved. But my point is like, I didn't have to tell her that now. And so my whole point is like, if she's wanting to ride that train and work hard, kind of like what you talked about a little bit, when you hit 7th, 8th grade, your perspective changes and you start to realize like, the more work I put in, the better results I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And so, but I think the hardest thing is you think one way, and that's why it made you who you are. And same thing for me. Like my competitiveness drove me where I just wasn't going to get beat, right? Like it wasn't an option. You have to take yourself out of that and let your kids, because otherwise these guys know, I mean, they laugh at the stories I tell them now because I do coach all my kids. And like my son's 9 and he hates baseball, does wants nothing to do with it. And I'm like, how is this even possible? You know, but he plays football in the fall, lacrosse in the spring. And so giving him that opportunity to grow his dream and his passion, you know, he's twice a week out of Buford on the football fields with the coaches doing little ladder drills and stuff that's helping him prepare. So I think the cool thing for you, man, is you're going to have a great journey. You have great people. But like you said, having people, Britt and Brad have spoke truth into me numerous times when I'm telling them conversations about the way I coach or raise them. And they're like, wait a minute, did you say this? And I'm like, you're right, you know, and take a step back. But I think it's why we did start this, because we want people like you who are successful, who have been vulnerable at times. I'll say this, I watch your teams out in LA, and y'all have gotten more and more physical every year that I watch y'all.
That's cool to hear. I appreciate it.
And I think it's great because I'm sure as a young coach, right, you win. And like you said, you think, I'm on top of the world, man. I'm smarter than everybody else. I would be able to do this. And then all of a sudden you get hit in the mouth for 2 years, right? And it's like, holy crap, we're not very good.
Yeah.
And so and that's what you want your kids to go through, right? Like, how do you stink one week, and how do you work to make sure that doesn't happen again, or less and less and less? And I think that's what's cool with you sharing on here is, like I said, the way that your team played the Eagles, no one else played the Eagles that way. And I know you don't want that journey to end, but from a guy from the outside watching, because I watch every game,
sure,
you know, my kids are watching, it's like, how did you give yourself that chance at the very end to be the only team that had a chance to beat the Eagles? Well, it's toughness. Y'all went face to face with them because they out physicaled everybody else except your team.
There is one person and one person only who will define your kid's dreams, and that's your kid.
If you want something, like, you have to work for it.
Your ability to counter a weapon is paramount to your game development.
Or just losing perspective on what youth sports are really about.
Teach your kid the value of winning, but not at all costs.
Get a lot of questions on when an athlete should start strength training.
If your athlete follows my protocol, they are going to have better energy than ever before.
They can't come to you when you're born and say, you got character. You got to build that.
You can win, but if you're not really impacting lives, I think you lose.
It's awesome that you guys are doing that. You mentioned one of the 5 pillars was grit. What are the other 4 that you guys talk about?
I mean, the first pillar is vision. And the whole idea of vision is seeing the destination that you're going after, setting goals, and your kids learning that translates into all of life. The second one is grit. The third one is skill. And what we kind of say is parents, all our parents are focused on spending money on skills, and we're trying to get them to recognize there's 4 other pillars. The fourth one we call belief, but it's the whole mental side of the game and mental approach, which at the end of the day is about when I step up to the plate in a big moment, or I'm on the football field in a big moment, do I have the belief? Can I execute on the biggest stages? And then the last one, which some people would say is unrelated to success, we would say is not, is character. And the character should be.
I agree with you guys on that.
Yeah. So those are our 5 pillars.
That is so cool because, you talk about the belief. I think one of the most important things that we really talk about is like developing a mindset, whether it's a growth mindset or a mindset where, hey, let's be our best regardless of the circumstances. Let's not have fear of failure. there's a documentary, one of my favorite guys to watch. I love using basketball or baseball, other sports than football to reference our team. Because you show football guys, they're like, oh, we're better than him, So you show other sports where there's a lot of respect and reverence. Well, there was a documentary on Netflix, Court of Gold. Steph Curry and Steve Kerr. I love Steve Kerr. Got to know him a little bit. And Steph, just the joy that he plays with. But there's a line when they're talking to him about one of the great shots that he made against France in the gold medal game to basically put the game away. And he says, you have to be comfortable with the unpredictability of the outcome and going for it. And my goal would be, how do we create that mindset and mentality where guys enjoy the challenges? Like Steph, he enjoys being in those moments. Yeah. You can feel it, but it's because of the work. It's because of the authentic passion that he has for the game. And so you can immerse yourself in those moments and truly be comfortable with the unpredictability of the outcome and swinging or shooting or, really going for it. And that belief is something that is, when you mean it, we talk about it as coaches, when it's authentic and it's invested in people, for the most powerful words you can say to someone, I believe in you. And those 5 pillars that you guys talk about, it's really cool because we haven't talked about it before. And I appreciate you guys having me on, but just seeing what you guys have done and some of the different episodes that I had seen, the core values and principles. I'm just such a big fan and a believer in what you guys preach.
Well, thanks, Sean. And we know we got to wrap up here, but I'm going to ask you to personalize that whole area of belief, because there's a story out there about the state playoffs and you calling a play as a quarterback on your own to win a game. And that took incredible belief. Tell our audience that story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I think this thing started because of the collaboration and the belief that was instilled for a long period of time from my coaches. And we were playing Shaw in the quarterfinals, and man, they were a really good football team. And it was a 3rd and goal opportunity from, in the tight red zone area. We called a play and I kind of ran it, we would have it where the receivers would send the play, and that play would have probably worked as well. But this was a hard over pursuing defense, where, all 11 guys would get to the ball and they'd finish on the ball. And so it ran over to the sidelines. And a couple of years ago, we had put in basically a naked bootleg where we were getting into the wishbone and we'd fake kind of a wham play, and the backside end had really just been crashing and not honoring some stuff out the back door. But this was something that, our coaches had kind of taught me what's the intent of the play. And I didn't necessarily call it. I just kind of said, hey, what do you guys think about the wham naked? They said, oh, we love it. And we talk about great communication leads to great collaboration. And what's funny is they listened and it ended up working out because of the empowerment that they gave me, but us as players and our ability to be able to collaborate. Well, I don't think it's by coincidence. Flash forward to our Super Bowl year. We're practicing Thursday at the Rose Bowl, getting ready to play the Super Bowl against the Bengals. And we had a short yardage deal where we were practicing this short yardage jet sweep. And the timing was really important based on the defense. We fumbled the exchange. Then the timing between Cooper and Matthew wasn't great. So I basically threw the play out. They ended up working on it on their own. They said, no, we believe in this play. We've got it timed up where it's going to be timed up right. You'll feel good about it. I said, all right, whatever. And I kind of just thinking, okay, the play's in, but then flash forward a few days later, we're down 4 points with 5 minutes left on our minus 30. And it's 4th down and 1. And we call that play. And the only reason we called that play is because of the confidence I had in their ability to solve it. And hey, if it worked out, it obviously did, and they go lead us to a championship. But if it didn't, I believed in them and that process so much. And that the point of the story is great communication leads to great collaboration. That story at Marist is an example of that. And so is that example that I just gave you guys. And I think because of the way that I was coached, it affected, some of the positive ways that I've been able to coach now. And then I've never actually put those two together until just now, but cool. Shoot, I might have to call Coach Chadwick and say, hell of a deal, man.
If you have middle school or high school kids that play sports and you don't want to fundraise like me, we got you covered. My buddy Chris Carneal owns Booster. Chris?
We help schools and sports teams raise funds in a super fun and engaging way. In fact, the last 22 years, we've raised $750 million, and we can't wait to help you. Choose booster.com.
Hey, do we have time for a couple rapid fire questions, Sean?
Yeah,
Jeff, you want
absolutely.
to go ahead with them?
Yeah, I'll tell you the first one. What's the most exciting football game, whether it's high school, Miami of Ohio, that you played in?
Ooh, I'll tell you, the most exciting game was probably the Chiefs-Rams 54-51 Monday night game. And then this past year, our game against the Bills was pretty exciting too.
Yeah.
You know, we went back and forth against the Bills, but that Chiefs game, that was a pretty special moment. And again, it was because of what it represented. There was fires going on in the LA area. There was a shooting locally. We were supposed to play that game in Mexico City. Shakira concert ruined the field, so we're back to the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And that game comes to mind. That was an exciting game for sure. A lot more exciting than the 13-3 shootout where we came back to Atlanta for the Super Bowl. That was a good homecoming for me. Whopping 3 points.
We weren't going to bring that up. Don't worry.
I'm not going to avoid the elephant in the room.
No.
That was a good humbling night there, Jeff.
I've had quite a bit of those too, so don't worry. What's your favorite away stadium to go to, that you're coaching against?
Yeah, God, there's so many great stadiums. I'll tell you, Seattle is a really cool place. I mean, it's a great fan base. How loud it gets in there. There's a crisp air because it's so fresh there. Seattle's awesome. The loudest environments that I've ever coached in that not even close. We played the New Orleans Saints in the 2018 NFC Championship. That was by far the loudest stadium I've ever coached in until we played Detroit in the 23 playoffs. Both of those places were like Metallica concerts on full blast, just continuing to go. It was unbelievable. I got to believe both those places were pumping in fake noise. Otherwise,
absolutely.
Touche to the crowd. I mean, it was unbelievable.
That's great. What NFL coach do you enjoy competing against the most?
Oh, golly. There's so many guys. It's hard to throw out one. I've worked with so many of these guys, whether it's, the guys that have been here or, coaching for, a guy like Kyle. I'll tell you, a guy that I think that really does it, these guys that have done it for a long time, I just have such respect for how Andy Reid goes about his business, how Mike Tomlin goes about his business, how John Harbaugh goes about it. Even Sean Payton, these guys that have been doing it for a long time. I mean, I think consistency is the truest measurement of performance. And when you see these longest tenured coaches, it's crazy. You go to these league meetings and you realize how hard our league is. Kyle Shanahan and I were talking about it. When we got hired in 2017, the only guys that have been at their places longer than us now, Sean McDermott was also hired in that same cycle, is Mike Tomlin, it's Andy Reid, and it's John Harbaugh. And all three of those guys are Hall of Fame coaches, no doubt about it. They've won championships, but they pour into their players. They lead, they model the way. They all do it in their own way, but they're great leaders of men, and they represent a lot of the values and principles that we've talked about here today.
What's the one play call you wish you could have back?
Oh, man. Where do you want me to start? I'll tell you, what's funny is, so it didn't work out. I'll tell you the one play call that I want to have back is when we get inside the 13-yard line against Philly this year, and I know we have 2 downs, and we're 3rd down and 2, and we've got a chance where I know we got 2 downs. I should have run it there because I know I've got 2 downs. We end up taking a sack. We kind of had a little bit of a miscommunication. Yeah. We might have had a chance to score on that play where they were playing man coverage and doubling Nakua, but it didn't work out. And you say, okay, was it a terrible play call? Maybe not terrible, but I could have handled that situation better in regards to, hey, I know I have 2 downs. We had plenty of time, and we wanted to give them as little time as possible because kicking the extra point would have represented going up 29-28. And, that play where I ended up calling a little choice route to, one of our core 2x2 concepts, we take a sack. I should have run it there. They're thinking pass. We kind of had them a little bit tired because of the amount of snaps we were getting in a kind of an up-tempo offense. And so would have done that, and then maybe would have been saying, you guys played them tough, and then, hey, you hosted an NFC championship.
Hey,
but
and
thanks for bringing it up.
Coach Chadwick was sitting there at home watching that game on the TV saying, run the ball, right?
Oh, no doubt. He won't talk to me since then.
Yeah. And my final question for you, Sean, is what advice can you give any young male athlete who wants to be a coach at the next level or be a player at the next level? What's your advice to them as, they're pursuing their dream?
Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey, good and bad, and really know that this is going to make you stronger if you handle it with the right perspective. My advice to coaches, when you get into coaching, is simply be reminded by asking this question to yourself: would you want to be coached by you? That's one of the, it's like, I think there's certain things that you can ask yourself to kind of keep you on track. You think about when people used to wear a lot of the bracelets, what would Jesus do right here?
Yeah.
It's like, I think for coaches, it's like, and really I think for players too, would you want to be your teammate? Would you want to be coached by you? And if that's the perspective, when you can say all right, am I doing things that, if you're really doing it at a high level as a coach, man, what a powerful platform that is to have, or to be a teammate in a leadership role. And I think the best leaders, they impact and influence positive change while also knowing that they're human too. Give yourself some grace in the midst of the journey. But for coaches, the appropriate perspective is ask yourself, would you want to be coached by you? And I think the same thing in terms of when you're being a teammate. And then the thing for athletes, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Love that.
Man, Coach, you've been so generous with your time.
Yeah.
We thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it. Shoot, I can't believe how fast it's gone. So this has been a joy for me too. I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on. Probably won't get many views, but I've enjoyed the conversation.
No, I'm sure we will.
No, it will.
We did a ton of, and I tell you, when I texted you originally, seriously, I remember watching the state championship game and seeing a 17-year-old kid carry himself the way you did. It struck me. You remember those things. And I'm so excited that you've been able to go from that point to where you are today and do it with such humility and do it with such character. So you represent what we're all about. I mean, you represent what Pure Athlete's all about, and we just thank you so much for being on.
Well, what I appreciate about what you guys sharing is you learn through your mistakes, and certainly I've had a lot of those myself. But I appreciate what you guys are doing, and you guys are all about the right stuff. This is really cool. I'm glad we got connected.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, hey, 14-1 your senior year. Who did you lose to?
It was the first time we had lost to St. Pius in 30 years. It was our last game of the season. And you know what? That, you would have thought our season was over. We were 9-0, played Pius, and we lost that game. And you know what was cool is it created a sense of urgency. We go on a 5-game run, but that was a, you know what? Those might have been some of my worst play calls from that game.
Well, you got plenty more good ones coming. I know that, but thanks for giving us your time, man.
Well, hey, I appreciate you guys, man. It's been awesome being here with you.